Hey guys, this is your last video of chapter 3. We're going to be solving systems using matrices. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do to get set up for these is to create what's called a matrix equation. Okay, so as we see here, we have a system of equations that we have solved using substitution or elimination or graphing earlier this chapter. We are going to now learn a fourth method, which is solving using matrices. Okay, so we've practiced with matrices this whole chapter, and this is why, because it's bringing us to our final way of solving a system. Okay, so like I said, step one is to set up a system of a matrix equation. Okay, so in my first matrix, I'm going to put my coefficients before my x and y's. Okay, so first I want to make sure my x and y's are in the same order. So x, y, x, y. So we're good. Okay, well the coefficient in front of the x is a 1, so I'm going to put that here. There's a 2 in front of the y, so I'm going to put that there. Then I've got a 3 and a -6. Okay, the biggest thing here is you want to make sure that you don't forget your negative signs. And you want to make sure that you're using the proper signs when you do these matrix equations. Okay, and then I'm going to put a matrix next to here that says x, y, because those are the two variables that I'm working with. And then I'm going to say that that is equal to 9 and 3. Okay, so step one is set up a matrix equation. Okay, from there then, you're going to grab your calculator, and we're going to call this matrix A, and we're going to call this matrix B. Okay, well, to get rid of A on this side, so basically we're solving for the variables, okay? And to get rid of the A over here, remember we learned that any matrix times its inverse will basically cancel it out, okay? So I'm going to basically get this typed in my calculator. I'm going to take and I'm going to multiply by the inverse of A on both sides. So really, once I get things typed in my calculator, xy is just going to be equal to the inverse of A times B. So this is what this looks like. So I'm going to take, and in my calculator, I'm going to go second matrix. So I'm in my matrix menu. I'm going to go over to edit, and I'm going to edit my first matrix to be a 2 by 2, so there's 2 by 2. And then I'm going to type in 1, 2, 3, -6. And then I'm going to quit that. I'm going to go back in my matrix menu again. I'm going to go over to edit, and now I'm going to go down to B, and in matrix B I'm going to type in a 2 by 1 this time, and I'm going to type in 9 and 3. Okay, so now I have my two matrices entered. So I just quit and went back to my original screen. Now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to type in the inverse of A times B. So I'm going to go second matrix. I'm going to choose matrix A, do the inverse of it, hit times, and then I'm going to go back in and choose matrix B. So in your calculator, hopefully you can see this, you have this typed out right now. So the inverse of A times B. Okay. All right, and then if I hit enter, it tells me that 5 and 2 are my answers, which means that it just solved it for me and said that x is 5 and y is 2, or in other words, these two equations would cross at the point 5, 2. Okay, so quick way to solve the system using matrices, as long as you're decent at plugging them in your calculator. All right, quick little fun fact before we move on. Did you know that 7% of Americans believe that chocolate milk actually comes from brown cows? I just thought that was kind of funny since we're in Wisconsin and obviously we don't think that same fact. All right, so let's look at another one here. So here is where it gets a little bit more complicating. Now we don't just have two variables anymore. This is where matrices are really going to come into play and be extremely helpful for us. Okay, this system of equations right now, I could show you how to solve, but honestly it would take a 20-minute video just to get through one problem and actually do halfway decent explaining it. So instead we're going to use matrices and take the same amount of time that it just took to solve this system right here. Okay, it's not going to take any longer than this one took. Okay, so I'm going to start by creating my matrix equation, except this time I have three variables, okay, which means my variable matrix is going to be x, y, and z this time. Okay, so my matrix equation I'm still going to set up to look exactly the same, okay? In the first row here are my first three variables, so x, y, and z. So 6, 4, 6, 4, negative 2. And then I'm going to go down to my next equation, 3, 4, negative 10. Again, we've got x, y, z, x, y, z. It's very important that you go in the same order. Here, though, if we look, we're missing our y's. So down here in my y column, I'm going to put a 0, okay? And then I've got negative 7 for my x's, and my z's are 20. All right, and then over here, all the numbers that it's equal to are 20, 36, and negative 52. And now again, just like I solved the last one, this is my A, this is my B, and to solve it, I need to take the inverse of A times B. And that's going to give me x, y, z. And we're going to type that in our calculator. So we're going to go straight to our calculator, and I'm going to start plugging in. So I've got second matrix. I'm going to go over to edit, and I'm going to choose matrix A. And now this time matrix A is a 3 by 3. And I'm going to do 6, 4, negative 2, 3, 4, negative 10, and negative 7, 0, and 20. And I'm going to go second matrix again. I'm going to go back into edit again, and I'm going to edit matrix B to be a 3 by 1, and I'm going to type in these three numbers here. So 20, oops. Let's try that again. So 20, 36, negative 52. And I'm going to quit. All right, so now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to choose matrix A, the inverse of it. So second matrix, choose matrix A, the inverse of it, times matrix B. And hit enter. And here are my answers. So I have decimals, which is perfectly fine. So I'm going to round this to say 0.83, 2.6, and negative 2.3. So this is x, this is y, this is z. And there's your answers. So again, I could have spent a 20-minute video explaining how to do that problem, but instead it took the same amount as if I were to solve using two variables. All right, and this is why it's important that you guys have a graphing calculator, because I have not taught you how to find the inverse of A by hand. Okay, so finding the inverse of A is something that you would either have to Google or YouTube or figure out how to do that by hand, which is not an easy process. Otherwise, find a graphing calculator and you can type it in nice and easy. All right, and our last problem here, of course, we're going to throw word problems in the play. Okay, so Dante and Erica just returned from the comic book store. Dante spent $11 and bought 3 new and 4 old books. Erica spent $15.75 and 3 new and 10 old books. How much does each new book and each old book cost? Okay, so I'm going to write my equations first. So we're going to first write an equation for Dante, and we're going to write them in standard form. So our variables, x is going to be the new books and y is going to be the old. Okay, so Dante's equation then would be 3x plus 4y equals $11. And then Erica's would be 3x because she bought 3 new as well, plus 10 old is 1575. And we're going to set up our matrix equation then. So we only have 2 variables this time, x and y. 11 and 1575 is going to go here. And then we've got 3 and 4 and 3 and 10. And then I can go and type that in my calculator. And I can go second matrix, go over to edit. And so my first one is a 2 by 2 this time. So I've got 3, 4, 3, 10. I'm going to go back in my matrix menu and edit matrix B. And to be a 2 by 1 this time. And that's 11 and 1575. And then I can quit. And now I'm going to go back in, choose matrix A, the inverse of it, and times matrix B. So it looks as though here that how much does each new book cost? So it looks like I've got 2.61 here and 0.79 here if you look at your answers in your matrix. Okay, which means that each new book cost $2.61 and each old book costs about 79 cents. All right, and that is how you solve matrix equations or solve systems using matrices. We will see you next time.